Stop and search is one of the most controversial police powers in the UK. Police officers can search members of the public for prohibited items such as drugs, stolen goods, or weapons. It's a policy that allows them to look through the clothes that someone is wearing, but can dressing a certain way make you more likely to be searched? This March, Eric Taylor was stopped and searched for drugs in Croydon after being deemed suspicious by the police for wearing a coat on a sunny day. The 20-year-old filmed and uploaded a video of the encounter on his TikTok, where it went viral, amassing almost 900,000 views. Nothing was found on him, and he was left feeling violated like a stranger in his own country.
We don't want your coat. We asking why you're wearing it. You're not dressed for
Because
the climate.
I wear anything I want, man. I wear anything I want. What's wrong with you?
You're not dressed for the climate, so it's very
What do you
warm.
mean the climate?
It's hot.
Who tells me? Who tells
me?
Who tells me how to dress, man? Can you tell me how to dress?
No, it just seems
Can you tell me
odd.
how to dress?
It just seems like, mate, I'm just
Nah, man, don't ever
We're
talk
going
to
to be
me.
detaining you under
Yeah,
section
go on.
23,
Do whatever
okay?
you want to do.
Katrina Ffrench is an activist and founder of legal non-profit organisation Unjust, who help people protect their rights when it comes to policing. She is also the former CEO of Stopwatch, an independent organisation with a primary focus on the fair usage of stop and search.
It's not lawful to stop someone based on their attire. So whilst it may be unusual, I can't see how it warrants grounds for a search. Officers talk to whoever they want, so they can ask someone to stop and account for their actions. However, to jump from someone accounting for their actions to stopping them for what I believe was a drug search, it's a big leap. But it's not unusual because that's often that experience it's really unfortunate, but it's not a rarity for young Black boys and young Black men. Yeah, a lot of assumptions made around, people and what's suspicious and what's not suspicious. I also think it's just how officers spoke to him. So there's having your reasonable grounds, and then there's how you engage with someone, how you converse with them, and the kind of belittling or sarcasm or undermining that he was experienced also isn't anything unusual. It is the culture of, the Met Police, whether the senior officers would like to admit it or not. So there's like a kind of stereotype of who the police think wear what, instead of recognizing that this is kind of like young people's fashion, more so than a sign of affiliation to anything. And that can be really harmful because, being able to dress how you want is an expression of yourself. And if the state is saying if you're deemed to dress like this means, we're gonna basically harass you, then obviously we have a problem. And that is gonna lead to a breakdown of trust and confidence, because if you have people misusing or abusing their powers for no real benefit, you get people that are aggrieved by that action, and rightly so.
According to a government report on stop and search by ethnicity, between April 2019 and March 2020, there were 6 stop and searches for every 1,000 white people, compared with 54 for every 1,000 black people. In the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, which is the legislation that allows for most stop and search powers, it says that age, race, religion, or sex can never be grounds for suspicion. It also states that what someone is wearing is only relevant when it's a distinctive sign of affiliation to a particular gang. Roach Bridgeman is a presenter known for coming up on the online music channel SBTV. He created a documentary for the BBC called You Match Your Description. While creating it, Aaron rode around in the police van while they conducted searches. Everything went smoothly, but he felt uncomfortable because of how they had treated him as a young person.
So growing up in Harlesden in northwest London, police presence was rife. I remember there was a summer when I had so many stop and search slips that it was piled like this, and that was just during the summer. They would always say there's been a crime in the area and you match the description, especially because we were younger as well. Thinking about it now, I was probably young and small. They would push us about. Like one of my friends was thrown to the floor. They kneed him in the back, like while they had him on the floor. His face is into the concrete ground. These kind of things were normal. It's almost like we can't be ourselves. We have to adapt. Like even coming here today, really and truly, for something like this, I would have probably just wore a tracksuit because you just relax, you're just asking some questions. But I realised that I'm coming to a reputable establishment. I can't come in here with a tracksuit and a cap. And even wearing my cap, I was a bit, might be a bit urban. Might be a bit much. But why I say this is that I think young men, and not just even black men, young inner city men, and even women, they understand the need to have to adapt to their environments to try to avoid hassle. And that in itself is a problem. You're not allowed to stick out in certain areas. You've got people who have moved in, like Stormzy lived in Kensington. When he moved in, they come and broke his door down and ran into his house and searched his house because a tall black man in a tracksuit can't be living in Kensington. He must be robbing the house, right? That's what they think. Once again, it goes back to preconceptions. We associate urban wear with criminal activity, but then we associate suits with crystal clear records and angelic behaviour.
Adam Pugh is an ex-police officer turned campaigner who spent 4 years working as a special constable. He joined the Met to make change from inside the institution after growing up on a council estate in Southwark, watching his friends be harassed through stop and search. He left the force after feeling himself be drawn into the same toxic behaviour that he went in to combat. Adam explained how on Operation Blunt, a project targeting knife crime, they didn't search a single person in a suit and tie, which shows how your dress can affect how you're perceived by the police.
Like we're all socially conditioned, and we all are products of our environment and the things that we absorb. And police officers are not any different to that. But I definitely think that, the perception of whether it be streetwear, urban, I hate that word, but urban clothing, particularly on young black boys, and the way that they're perceived and the way that they're presented in the media, definitely has an impact on them and the way that they think. When we talk about racism or misogyny or homophobia that exists within the Met, it's an institutional problem, and good, well-intentioned people can still be a part of the problem. I would like to consider myself as one of those people, as a good, well-intentioned person, but I was still a part of the problem. There's been scenarios where, I've come across people that are, have been refugees or are just poor. Like, they don't have massive wardrobes. There was a phrase that they used. They would call people slags. He's slag, she's a slag, and that was nearly always, from my experience, that was nearly always decided on appearance. But it would never be phrased in that way. It's not going to be, you're wearing a hoodie. It's, you look suspicious. You're up to no good. We smelt marijuana. There's always other subtle ways around it that they can use.
Adam said that wearing a hoodie, a cap, a tracksuit, a puffer jacket, a utility vest, or a side bag could all be reasons that you attract attention. He remembers being directly told in stop and search training that if there was a group of black men wearing hoodies when they arrive at a call, then they should all be spun, which is lingo for searched. Adam worries about Boris Johnson's beating crime plan, which was announced in July 2021. It includes recruiting an additional 20,000 police officers by 2023. To gain independent patrol status, these new force members will have to make a certain number of arrests. As rookie police officers make mistakes, he worries that this will lead to unfair profiling and misuse of stop and search. The beating crime plan also makes it easier for the police to carry out Section 60 searches, which is when they search anyone in an area where a crime has taken place without needing grounds for suspicion.
So there's this thing around stereotyping and the stigma of, being young and black in an urban area. When I say urban, I mean built up, not black. I mean geography, urban is coming from an inner city space and finding yourself overly surveilled by police. So I made the example with like the City of London having really low stop and search rates. And then we're speaking about what sorts of people there, bankers, what do they wear? If we have low numbers there and high numbers in other places, are we saying that those areas don't require the same sorts of controls or measures or, policing practices because they're less likely, they would say, to be doing certain sorts of crimes? I would just say that certain spaces are policed differently depending on the people living in those spaces or operating in them. And for Black people, it doesn't really matter what space you're in, you're still viewed as suspicious. And that's why there's still lots of Black men who drive nice cars and wear suits that are stopped by the police in comparison to white men. I think being Black overrides your clothing. So the clothing might add an added layer, but it's the racial bit that is, I'd say, the primary factor for being stopped. The clothing adds to it, but So no, it isn't an area, but it is one that I can see how being dressed in a certain way would make the police erroneously think that you're involved in something, because that's how the police think.
According to a 2020 UCL study into stop and search using data published by the Home Office, half of all searches between July and September 2020 occurred in 9% of neighbourhoods in London, while 69% of all searches took place in neighbourhoods that were more deprived than average. This March, a protest took place at Stoke Newington Police Station about the strip search of the anonymous child Q in a Hackney school. The teachers called the police because they wrongly thought she had marijuana on her. The officers made the 15-year-old bend over a table while on her period and remove her sanitary towel in a room with no appropriate adult present. The issue has recently come to light as the traumatised teen's family are suing the Met. We spoke to Sophia Purdy-Moore, a protester from the racial justice group No More Exclusions, about her thoughts on the incident and the role of policing in the UK.
And yeah, it's just abhorrent. If we look at stop and search, police disproportionately use stop and search powers against children, all children, but particularly those from marginalised and disadvantaged backgrounds. They use force against children. Punishment is not the way to justice. We need healing. We need investment in communities and, community power, community infrastructure and essential services like schools, like healthcare, like education. We've had decades and decades of reform, police reforms, diversifying the police training, such like. Yet these injustices, they continue to happen. The police is institutionally racist, institutionally violent, institutionally misogynist. I could go on. It's no way to create a just society. There's no just society that's ever going to exist if the police exist.
After conducting these interviews and listening to the powerful discussion that they provoked, it became clear that for young men, dressing a certain way could indeed attract police attention. Preconceptions, stereotypes and generalisations were reoccurring statements and appeared to be infused by representations of criminality in the media and the culture within the force. While anyone can be stopped and searched because of this, being a person of colour seems to make you more of a target. So yeah, how do you feel about the future of stop and search?
I'll be honest with you, I think unless vast, massive regulation and changes internally happen, I don't really have much faith for it. It does feel like maybe it's not as bad as it once was, but maybe that's because we've had COVID for 2 years and people haven't been outside to be stopped and searched. So in all honesty, I'm not massively confident in big changes unless they make big changes internally. It needs to be regulated better. There needs to be regulated searches. There needs to be targeted searches that are based on actual intelligence or actual knowledge of something happening, rather than just randomly accosting young kids and making them feel less than just because they might look like someone who you think is a criminal.
No one should have to change the way that they dress and express themselves to avoid being bullied by members of a service that is there to protect them. It is up to the Met to take accountability for their detrimental actions and make serious change to how they operate, and we will be waiting to see how the next